Okay, so I think we can get started.
Yeah, okay, cool. I won't bother wasting your time going over it all again. I'll just quickly say that yeah. So congratulations on making it so far. Congratulations on making it to the finals. Congratulations on winning all the rounds that you have won. Yeah. So I hope that you all learned something out of this, and I hope that this is an experience that you guys remember and cherish, uh, for the remainder of your college years and the remainder of your debating career, right? So yeah. So I'll not waste a lot of time going into all of that again. I'll just invite my panel to introduce themselves. I think we can start with Himanshu.
Himanshu, panelist, all the best.
Hello everyone. Avnish, panelist, and looking for a great debate. All the best.
Hello, my name is Shambhavi Pandey. I'm one of the panelists for today. All the best for the debate.
Okay, I guess Himadri might be having some issues. That's okay. We'll just start with the debate. So yeah, just a couple of quick housekeeping rules. No heckling. Please be very respectful in the words you use. Very mindful of protected communities and protected language in the speeches that you make. Try to avoid making any sort of generalizations or making any sort of comments that might hurt people or make them feel bad or bring up traumatic issues or sensitive issues. If you are going to say anything that you are worried that uh, might mentally affect someone or cause some effect of some degree of trauma, please give a trigger warning before making any such statements. But in general, as a rule of thumb, try to avoid such statements. That being said, I think we can start off with the Prime Minister. Please come forward, introduce yourself, mention your POI preferences to the audience, and then you can start off with your speech. Can one of the panelists please listen to your timer? Yeah, cool. Prime Minister, whenever ready, here.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Medha Mukherjee. My preferred pronouns are she, her. Ladies and gentlemen, imagine a young artist, Maya, standing in front of a blank canvas. She is filled with self doubt. Her mind is echoing with the thought that she must perfect her technique before she can create anything meaningful. Days turn into weeks, and her canvas remains untouched. One day, a friend of hers visits her studio, sees her struggle, and offers to paint with her. They laugh, share ideas, and slowly, Maya begins to see beauty in her work. Not because she has suddenly mastered her craft, but because she was inspired and supported by her friend. The story illustrates a critical point. The notion that we must love ourselves before we can love anyone else is not only flawed, but potentially harmful. As a leader of the government, it is my duty to challenge this narrative and demonstrate why it sets unrealistic expectations, ignores the reciprocal relationship of love, and fosters a culture of isolation. My burden as a leader of the government today is to prove that love is a dynamic and reciprocal experience, not a linear process that requires self love as a prerequisite. We will show that the journey of loving oneself and others is intertwined and is through relationships that we often find the very self acceptance we seek. In the speech, I will focus on three main arguments: the unrealistic and damaging expectations this narrative sets, the reciprocal nature of love and relationships, and the broader societal implications of endorsing such a narrative. My deputy PM will further substantiate these points with psychological and sociological evidence, as well as talk about the negative traits of self love, excessive self love, and our whip speaker will refute the opposition's arguments and reinforce our stance with additional examples. First, let's address the unrealistic and damaging expectations that come along with this narrative. The idea that one must fully love oneself before engaging in meaningful relationships is unrealistic and harmful. Self love is a lifelong journey filled with highs and lows, And to suggest that someone must achieve complete self love before they can participate in relationships is to set a standard that many will never meet. This creates a barrier to forming connections, leaving individuals feeling unworthy of love if they struggle with self esteem. Now, consider the countless people who battle self doubt daily. Should they believe that their capacity to love and to be loved is on hold until they achieve an elusive sense of complete self love? This is not only unfair but also counterproductive. Human beings are social creatures, and our self worth is often reinforced through our interactions and relationships with others. By setting such a high standard, we alienate those who may already feel unworthy and discourage them from seeking the very relationships that could help them grow and find self acceptance. Next, we want to talk about the reciprocal nature of love and relationships. Love is not an individual adventure, it thrives in interaction and change. Think of a child who struggles with self esteem but finds unconditional love and support from a parent, friend, or mentor. This external love can be transformative and healing and provides the child with a sense of worth and security that fosters self love. The idea that one must first achieve self love before they can participate in such a relationship ignores this fundamental aspect of development and interaction. Love from others is a powerful catalyst for self acceptance and self love. To illustrate, let us once again consider the story of Maya. Her friend's support was not contingent upon Maya loving herself first. Instead, it was through the act of painting together, sharing experiences, and offering encouragement that Maya began to see her own worth and talent. This exemplifies how external love and support can foster internal self love, demonstrating the reciprocal nature of love. Finally, let's explore the broader societal implications by endorsing the narrative that you must love yourself before you can love others. We risk promote. I think there was a POI. I'll take it up later. We risk promoting a culture of individualism and isolation. This narrative can discourage people from seeking help and support from their communities as they feel they must resolve their internal struggles alone in a world where mental health issues are on the rise. Fostering community and mutual support is more critical than ever. And by rejecting this narrative, we promote a more by rejecting this narrative, we promote a more inclusive and supportive society where people are encouraged to seek and give love irrespective of their personal struggles with self-love. Now, the opposition might argue that, and they may claim that self love is essential for healthy relationships and that without it, individuals are prone to dependency and toxicity. However, we contend that the need for self love is not an all or nothing proposition. Relationships can indeed be unhealthy if one is entirely devoid of self worth. But this does not mean that one must reach the pinnacle of self love before engaging in relationships. Healthy relationships can provide support and affirmation needed to build self worth gradually. It is a symbiotic process, not a linear one. Moreover, the opposition might argue that self love is foundational for setting boundaries and ensuring mutual respect in relationships. While it is true that a sense of self worth is important, it is often through our interactions and love we receive from others that we learn to set boundaries and recognize our worth. The journey to self love and healthy relationships is not sequential, but rather a continuous interplay where each element reinforces the other. In conclusion, the narrative that you must love yourself before you can love anyone else imposes unrealistic and damaging expectations, ignores the reciprocal nature of love, and promotes a culture of isolation and individualism. Love and self acceptance are intertwined and mutually reinforcing. By fostering relationships and communities that emphasize mutual support and love, we can create a society where individuals are encouraged to grow and thrive together and are recognized. I urge you to reject this harmful narrative and see the power of love in all its forms to bring out the best in us. Thank you. Sir, may I
I'd like
take
to,
up the POI?
you can't take the PF Yeah, I would like to thank the Prime Minister for the very fine speech. I invite the leader for the decision to start off the opposition side of the debate here.
Uh, Good evening to the house at large. My name is Sanvi Srivastav, and the motion under fire today reads that this house regrets the narrative that you have to love yourself before you could love anyone else. And I, as leader of opposition, stand here firmly opposing this idea. Let me give you a walkthrough as to why I believe so. First of all, we must realize, what does love yourself before you love anyone else actually mean? It means that no matter what you need, you think of yourself first and then about any other person. Love yourself is caring about your own health and solving problems that affect your life first. Loving yourself means making choices that are going to be good for your own life. Loving yourself means, most importantly, prioritizing you over anyone else in the entire world. Now, I would like to ask my fellow debaters, we have all experienced situations in our lifetimes where we feel that we're only person in a friendship or a friend group that was trying to make an effort, trying to connect, trying to keep touch, trying to meet. And how bad is that feeling? I'm sure we can all relate. That is the feeling you get when you've been prioritizing others above yourself and they choose to prioritize someone else over you. Now, amplify that feeling several times. And that is what you feel after a lifetime of attaching yourself to other people, completely dependent on them for your happiness and your sadness and for your entire life, and then realizing that they are not as attached to you and they do not love you as much as as you love them. For years, we've seen how the older generations of men and women sacrifice themselves in order to fulfill the need of their family, in order to prove themselves to be the perfect husband or the perfect wife, in order to prove themselves to be the perfect mother or the father for their child. And this has caused them nothing but unhappiness. We've seen various examples of how unhappy people become when they start prioritizing others over themselves. They lose interest in themselves, they forget to maintain themselves, and when asked their own opinions and choices, they have none to give. And that is why it is important for us to love ourselves and prioritize ourselves before anyone in the world. My opposition today seems to believe that we support the fact that a person must alienate themselves from society and alone improve themselves. No, we simply stand for the fact that a person needs to love themselves before loving others, so that they are not completely dependent on the attachment of others to provide them the confidence they need in order to boost themselves and empower themselves. Ever heard of the saying, how do you expect to expect others to respect you when you do not respect yourself? It's the same with love. You are the only person in the world who understands yourself best. You know your inside out, you know yourself, you're aware of your own flaws, insecurities, weakness, strengths, and talents better than anyone else. Self love is not an individualized process which must be performed before processing to act in a relationship. Self love is merely a practice which continues on throughout the person's life, which encourages a person to healthily love themselves and prioritize themselves, as compared to loving others more than oneself while being in relationships that are equally healthy and non-toxic. Loving ourselves gives us the confidence to love all those around us. Once we love ourselves and are confident of how well we know our capabilities, our potential, and know where we could be, and we could literally develop empathy for people in over the entire world. We see so many toxic relationships being carried on by just one partner because of the fact that they think it's their fault, especially because they try to love others before loving themselves. They fail to realize the problem is not in them, but the problem is in the other party, which is being toxic, failing to pay attention, and they keep blaming themselves. So it is easily concludable that prioritizing others' needs over oneself and loving others over oneself leads to self-doubt, blaming ourselves even when the fault is of someone else. Even before opposition tries to contradict my idea by proving how self-love is selfish and actually results in the intentions of the other parties being misunderstood and misconstrued, I would like to tell them, when I speak of the word self-love, I mean loving ourselves as we are, not having overconfidence, not overestimating ourselves in our potential capabilities, or but simply prioritizing ourselves, realizing our value. True self love never comes at the expense of others' feelings and needs. Also, when we talk about prioritizing self love, we do not merely talk about the positive aspects of ourselves. That is, we also talk about how we should recognize our flaws and mistakes and try to work upon them while we focus our attention on trying to love others before ourselves. We might not be able to understand our own flaws, recognize the mistakes we've been doing throughout the life, due to which we might never be able to develop our own personalities and remain behind as just a shadow of what we were. Prioritizing others people's happiness before our happiness would also mean that we are completely depending on others for our emotions. For example, a person who is happy in themselves, sad themselves, and is able to prioritize themselves would never depend on others for emotions. In situations where emotional problems arise, people who are extremely dependent on others for and are always prioritizing others, eh, they will feel more than just a simple heartbreak. They feel completely lost, unsure of what to do, since they were always prioritizing others before themselves. I would also like to commend my government for giving a wonderful example of how an artist learns to love art through her friends. But I would also like them to imagine a situation where instead her friend would have come by and and after a few days come and mocked at her for making her art. What would she do in such a situation where her only all her confidence stemmed from the support of one friend, and it was that one friend who was giving her the confidence to work? She would feel broken and disappointed, and maybe she would lose the motivation to paint or practice her art forever. And that is why self love is important. Although the love of a friend might push her to do one thing, but however, this is only possible in a perfect world. Everybody wants the good of the others in the world. In the world which we live in is not so. People do not want others to rise, and so they might demotivate a person to the extent that if they depend solely on others for their source of motivation, they lose the motivation to work completely. And ultimately, self love contributes to overall happiness and well being. Happier individuals tend to create happier relationships as they bring positivity, joy, and a sense of fulfillment into their interactions. And that is why I believe self love should always be prioritized above loving others. And with that, I rest my case but not my stance. Thank you.
I would like to thank the leader of opposition for that speech. I invite the TPM to take the stage. Here.
Also, just give me a reverse
Good
countdown before you
evening.
start your speech.
Sorry.
I'm saying just give a reverse countdown to me before you start your speech so that I'm able to start the stopwatch.
Okay, sure. I'll start in three, two, one. Good evening, respected jury and my fellow debaters. Today, I, Riddhi Srivastava, will be serving as the Deputy Prime Minister. So, first things first. Excessive self love and self obsession can be detrimental, leading to a narrow focus that excludes empathy and genuine connection with others. When individuals prioritize their own needs and desires above all else, it can result in manipulative behaviors aimed at satisfy personal gratification at the expense of relationships. This self-centric approach often alienates those around them, as interactions become transactional rather than meaningful. Moreover, excessive self obsession prevents personal growth by avoiding introspection and ignoring areas needing improvement. In long term, a balanced perspective that value both self respect and consideration for others is essential for fostering healthy relationships and overall well being. The narrative that one must love themselves before being capable of loving others has gained popularity in self help and psychological circles. However, it is not without its critics. Here are some points in favor of regarding this narrative. Firstly, this narrative can be exclusionary. implying that those who struggle with self love are incapable of healthy relationships. It overlooks the reality that many people develop self worth through relationships and connection with others. For many people, learning to love and care for others is intertwined with their own personal growth. Relationships can serve as catalysts for self-discovery and improvement, challenging individuals to become more compassionate, empathetic, and self-aware, and so on. As my PM mentioned, I will be obliged to discuss the lesser known negative traits that come along with excessive self love. Excessive self love and self obsession, often characterized by narcissistic traits, can lead to several negative consequences. First is relationship issues. Narcissist individuals may prioritize their own needs and desires above those of others, leading to difficulties in forming and maintaining meaningful relationships. They may struggle with empathy and fail to consider the feelings and perspective of others. Next is social isolation. Excessive self love can alienate others constantly about oneself, seeking admiration and degrading others' interests can result in social isolation and loneliness. For a second, I would like you to just imagine there is a person who is suffering from anything, suppose depression or something. That person is always sitting with their thoughts, reminding those things in their head. It's always remaining in their head. Can you imagine the level of stress on the brain? Whereas if a person, and in these situations, we tend to isolate ourselves, which is really wrong because isolating ourselves can only increase the problem. Humans are social creatures. We need connection. We need connection. We need someone to talk to so that to solve our problem or to discuss our issues. Next, I would like to discuss about psychological distress. Paradoxically, individuals with excessive self-love may experience significant psychological distress, including anxiety, depression, and feeling emptiness. Their self-worth may be contingent and external validation, which can be unstable and unreliable. I would like to state that the leader of opposition mentioned to love ourselves, one must isolate from others. I would refute this by stating that expecting people to avoid relationship with others, all because they might not be able. It's not a sign of self love. It's the highest sign of isolating oneself. As I earlier mentioned, excessive self love and self obsession leading to narcissism can manifest in various ways, often resulting in manipulative behavior. I would support my argument with some examples. For example, manipulating others for personal gain. A narcissistic individual might charm or manipulate others to gain admiration, resources, or advantages for genuine regard for their well being. They may use flattery, manipulation, or deceit to achieve their goals. Second, I would like to say seeking constant validation. Someone with narcissistic tendency may constantly seek validation and praises from others. They may fish for compliments, exaggerate their achievements, or diminish others' accomplishment to maintain a superior self-image. Third is lack of empathy. Narcissistic individuals often struggle with empathy and may disregard or minimize the feeling of experiences of others. They may be insensitive to others' emotions, dismissive of their concerns, or lack rumors for any harm caused. Fourth is superiority complex. This is also known as one of the psychological disorders, I would say. Narcissistic individuals often have an inflated sense of self importance and entitlement. They may believe that they are inherently better or more deserving than others, leading to arrogant or condensing behaviors. These examples illustrate how excessive self love and self obsession, when taken to an extreme and coupled with narcissistic trait, can lead to manipulative behavior that harm relationships and undermine the well being of others. With this, I would like to end my speech.
I'd like to thank the deputy prime minister for that right. Which I invite the deputy leader of opposition take a stage here.
Am I audible?
Yeah, you are.
Okay. I'll be starting in three, two, and one. You yourself, as much as anybody in the entire universe, deserve your love and affection. An amazing quote by Lord Buddha tells us why self-love is so important. Now, talking about the opposition's argument, while delightful, have not quite arrived at the destination of self-love's importance in a healthy relationship. Perhaps a quick map adjustment in order. Okay, the proposition rightly highlights the importance of two people in love. However, a healthy relationship encompasses more than just the number of individuals involved. If you don't love yourself, how can you offer genuine love to another? Insecurities can breed possessiveness, jealousy, and a constant need for validation. It creates a dynamic where you clinch to someone out of fear, not genuine connection. Self-love allows you to offer love freely without the need of constant reassurance. The Prime Minister of the government very conveniently came up and stated in her speech, and I quote, "What about the people who battle self doubt daily?" For that, let me shed a light upon how, when self doubt often whispers that you are not good enough, you don't deserve success, self love helps you see your value, your original value, your strengths, your accomplishments. You learn to celebrate your wins, uh, either small or big, fostering a more positive self image. Now, I would like to elaborate on arguments stated by my leader of opposition and why our arguments are as relevant as a compass in a journey of love, ensuring we navigate the right path. I will also be introducing some new arguments. Now, picture this: a vibrant sunflower, bustling with color, reaching for the sun. Now, imagine planting a sunflower in a cracked, broken pot. Sure, it might sprout, but will it thrive? Probably not. Love is like that sunflower. It needs a strong foundation, a healthy plot to truly bloom. That foundation, self love. It is that foundation. Think about it. If we don't love ourselves, how can we know what healthy love even looks like? We might confuse possessiveness with passion or mistake criticism for care. We become vulnerable to manipulate because we don't believe we deserve better. Self love is like rich soil, nourishing us from within. It lets us recognize our own needs and set boundaries. It whispers, you are worthy when doubts creep in. Now, some might say love for another can be the sunshine, the thing that helps us grow. But can a struggling plant wilting in a broken pot truly bask in that sunshine? It needs the strength to reach for it first. Think of parents. They don't wait for their children to be perfect before loving them. They nurture them, teach them self worth so they can blossom into independent, loving adults. Self love is not destination, it is a journey. It is about learning to appreciate our quirks, to forgive our mistakes, and to treat ourselves with kindness. It creates a strong base from which love for others can flourish. So let's ditch the broken pots, let's cultivate self love, that rich soil within, then watch love for other blooms, vibrant and strong, reaching for the sun together. Now, some might argue that love for another can be the sculptor Kissel shaping us into better versions of ourselves. There's the truth in that. But without the foundation of self love, are we mere clay, easily molded into something unrecognizable? True love respects the individual artwork, celebrating its unique form while offering gentle suggestions for improvement. Consider a house built on shifting sand. No matter how grand the structure is, it crumbles without a firm foundation. Self love lays that foundation. It allows us to set boundaries, to prioritize our well being, and to weather the storms of relationships. A person secure in their own worth fosters a healthy, supportive environment for love to flourish. Even the most magnificent diamonds needs a skilled hand to reveal its brilliance. Isn't love in some ways the gentle hand that polishes the rough edges of ourselves? Can we truly shine give, without giving some the chance to love us together our growth? With this, I would like to end my speech, but not my stance. Thank you.
I'd like to thank the creator for their fine speech. I'd like to invite the government whip to give the last constructive speech of their side. Here we go. Whenever you're ready, please start this. Please go whip here. Actually, I can't hear you. Please go whip here.
Excuse me, sir. Actually, sir, yesterday also when we were on Google Meet, sir, she was having issues with her mic.
Like, is she not able to speak?
So, like, she's speaking, but it's not audible for us for some reason.
Uh, yeah. Krishna, can we move back to the Discord for one speech or something? Yeah, एक second. Just give me one second. Okay, can you try speaking one last time? If you're not able to, we'll move to meet for one speech, and then we'll come back for the. Okay, yeah, fine, cool. Okay, fine. Everyone else, like just spectators and I think I can vaguely hear you. Okay. Uh, Audience members and like whoever isn't a part of the panel or the debaters, please just stay back in this meet. We'll just like quickly go back to the Discord for one speech and come back. Everyone, just come to the room. Just join room 10 quickly. Uh, I mean, yeah, room 1. Just quickly join room 1 for the first one.
Opposition, kindly come to the Discord.
Oh, cool. I'd like to thank the government. Oh, wait, wrong. Cool. Just checking. Is Gav here?
Yes, Gav is here.
Is Op here?
Yeah, we are here.
Cool. Cool, cool. Let me get this
Yes,
in.
so we are.
Cool. So let's move on with the debate. I invite the opposition whip to give the last constructive speech of the opposition side of the debate here.
Just give me a minute. Yeah, am I audible? Hello?
Yes, yes.
Okay. 3, 2, 1, begin. Greetings to the House at large. Ladies and gentlemen, today we firmly oppose the motion regretting the native that one must love oneself before loving others. We argue that self love is not only essential for personal well being but also for foundational and fostering healthy, enduring relationships. Allow me to summarize what self love is crucial that my teammates have done. Firstly, self love forms a bedrock of healthy relationships. It enables individuals to establish boundaries and demand mutual respect. Essential elements for sustainable partnership research consistently shows that individuals who prioritize self-worth report more fulfilling relationships, underscoring how personal well-being directly impacts relational dynamics. Secondly, self-love fosters emotional stability. Those who value themselves are less likely to experience jealousy or insecurity, promoting to harmonious relationships based on trust and confidence. Imagine the difference between the partners secure in their self-worth virus, those constantly seeking validation, emotional stability begins with self-love. Now think of self-love as an airplane's oxygen mask. You put it on first, not because you don't care about others, but because you need to be healthy to improve to help them if they need. Secondly, moreover, I would also like to say the self-love is not just an individual pursuit; it also has a positive set example for future generations. Children learn healthy relationships dynamics by observing parental self-care and self-respect by shaping their own understanding of love and respect. Now, I would like to answer some arguments that the proposition team have suggested. They said they said that love is not an individual adventure, implying to that relationships can cultivate self worth. However, we assert the sustainable love begins with individual growth. Without self love, relationships risk become co-independent, where person and entities become intertwined, often at the cost of individual self-being. They also said that self-love leads to depression or dimensions the value of compliments. Consider this.
Is it fair to dismiss the genuine efforts towards self care and self acceptance over to the fishing of others' compliment and diminishing others' praise? These practices are essential for fostering healthy self esteem and emotional well being, ensuring individuals can authentically give and receive love in relationships. The government whip has totally misunderstood the argument made by my deputy leader of opposition that who stated that um, whether the example of a sunflower and sunshine being the example of self-love resulting a good environment. Listening to the government whip made me think if I was a construction job, your site would have been condemned. There's a lot of foundation missing. Let us furthermore continue to claim that self-love of individual becoming radical, isolated, and stuck in their own heads, potentially leading to depression. uh, Self-love is about nourishing a positive relationship with oneself, which can enhance one's capability and to emphasize with support others, thereby contributing positively to both well-being and community relationships. Lastly, while love is indeed a dynamic process involving others, the proposition neglects the necessity of self-love as a foundation pillar. Building meaningful connections requires individuals to enter relationship from a place of strength and self-respect, ensuring mutual growth and support. I would also like to state that a study in 2010 by Laura D. Papp, who state and Brett J. Varakama, they stated that the research has a higher esteem in both partners, contributes to greater relationship satisfaction over time. Interestingly, the similarity of self-esteem between partners wasn't a good significant factor. Now, I would also like to state that why the opposition is already winning this debate. This is because clarity and focus on individual well being. Our argument centers on the importance of individual well being as a cornerstone of healthy relationship. By prioritizing self love and ensure that the individuals enter relationships as whole, stable beings capable of giving and receiving love in a balanced manner. This foundation is called a long term relationship process and resilience against challenges. Secondly, research consistently showing that the individual with higher esteem and self-worth experience more satisfying in enduring relationships. This evidence underscores the critical role of the self-love in fostering mutual respect, emotional resilience, and overall relationship success. Third, proactive approach to the mental health. Promoting self-love is not just about personal happiness but also to a proactive mental health. It equips individuals with tools to recognize and avoid toxic relationships, thereby preventing emotional harm and contributing to a healthier community. uh, and the last point, advocating for the self-love supports comprehensive personal growth. Individuals who prioritize self-care and self-respect are not only better partners but also a more effective partners, leaders, and community members. Their ability to positive impact others stems from their own foundation of self-love. In conclusion, I would like to say that the narrative that one must love oneself before effectively loving others is not just a fundamental principle for healthy, stable, and fulfilling relationships. It provides the emotional foundation necessary for a mutual respect, compassion, and personal growth. Our arguments, supported by the real life examples and logical reasoning, have demonstrated that the self love is essential for every individual and the success of relationships. Therefore, I strongly and we all should strongly oppose this motion. And I urge you to recognize the critical importance of self love in fostering healthier and happier individuals and as well as the societies. Thank you.
Cool. I would like to thank the opposition rep for their fine speech. I'd like to invite the opposition reply speaker to conclude and summarize the opposition side of the debate here.
Am I audible?
Yep.
Good evening once again to the panelists and my fellow debaters. I would like to start my reply speech by proving just how wrong the proposition for today has got us. The proposition says that people struggling with self esteem will be able to love others and form happy relationships. However, I must ask them to take off the rose tinted glasses through which they see the world as a place where each seeks to uplift the other and introduce them to the reality. And the reality, however, is that no one or seldom people want the better of others, and very few people actually want others to grow and develop in situations. In such a situation, do you think that relying on only others to reinforce your standards of yourself and not first emphasizing or building a healthy relationship with yourself is appropriate? The the proposition today has also done a fantastic job of managing to convey the fact that self love and self obsession is the exact same thing. I would like to remind them that in the beginning of my speech, I had cleared the meaning of the word self love as a healthy relationship with oneself where they prioritize themselves, but at the same time have empathy, love, respect, and understanding for others. Self obsession is in no way related to self love. Self obsession can be more connected to narcissism. Narcissism is extreme self involvement and loving to the degree that it makes a person ignore the needs of everyone around them. Once again, my gov has successfully managed to mix up the definitions of self obsession or narcissism to the point where she says that self love and narcissism are basically the same thing. Narcissism is not self love. In fact, the entire argument given by proposition side has been today that narcissism is the same as self love, and I would like to remind them that they are two completely different things. And being a person who loves themselves does not make one automatically a narcissist, and that is why my proposition's argument falls completely flat. I would also like to point out exactly how wrong the proposition today has been about how self love can cause depression. On the contrary, it is self love that protects one from depression due to self esteem and other issues. If one does not love themselves, then what is there that could possibly convince themselves that there is indeed that they are indeed a person with qualities and who has an actual value in the world? I would also like to inform my proposition that many therapists, psychiatrists, and well known books emphasize self love and self compassion as core components of mental health. These practices help individuals challenge negative thought patterns, develop healthier coping mechanisms, and build a more positive self image which contributes to improved mental health. My proposition has literally left no stone unturned in fact, mixing the words self love and self obsession to the extent where I even find myself confused as how I should prove them to be extremely different terms. I would also like to inform them that that the government whip seems to be under a misconception that she has rebutted my DLO's example of a sunflower with her use of sunlight and other factors. I would like to remind her that these environmental factors and the sunlight is provided to all the plants in the garden. Yet we see that only some plants grow and blossom into beautiful flowers while others just remain as weeds and die out eventually. Why is that so? Because they refuse to use those readily available factors to help themselves. And thus, unless and until the plant itself utilizes the resources given to itself, they will not be able to grow, and that itself proves the point of my DLO that uh, that unless a person loves themselves, they will not be able to love others. I would also like to inform them that the example of my speech that they have been using to defend their points for the past two speeches is wrongly heard and, more importantly, wrongly interpreted. What I had said that it is not a process that uh, self-love is not a process of alienating yourself from society to develop, but instead progress, which occurs side by side with other relationships in your life. Lastly, I would like to inform the proposition for today that in misconstruing self-love and self-obsession as the exact same thing, they have proved that none of their points stand when a person maintains a healthy relationship with oneself. That is the actual definition of self-love, which forced them to pretend that self-love is the exact same thing as self-obsession. And that itself proves that obsession today has won. Thank you.
I would like to thank the op reply speaker for their fine speech. I invite the reply speaker to conclude the opposition side of the debate and indeed the entire debate itself here.
3, 2, 1. Ladies and gentlemen, it is truly amusing how the opposition clings to the misconstructed idea that one must love oneself before they can love anyone else. Since they wish to talk about foundation, I'd like to tell them that theirs is built on a shaky one, on an isolated, unrealistic view of human emotions and relationships, which, for comparison, is about just as unrealistic as their thoughts of already having won their debate. They paint a picture where self love is a prerequisite for all meaningful connections. But let me dismantle this flawed and incompetent narrative once and for all. Going back to the example of Maya, the opposition argues that if a friend mocks her work, it's natural for her to feel heartbroken. While I agree with them that yes, she will feel heartbroken, I'll ask them, how exactly should Maya become indifferent to those hurtful comments? Is it by retreating into isolation, waiting for some mythical day when she reaches the pinnacle of self love, just like my incompetent opposition expects her to? Absolutely not, right? The truth is, Maya needs people in her life who can reassure her, validate her efforts, and remind her of the beauty in her art. This support network is crucial. Without it, she's left alone in a vacuum of self doubt. Self love, I would like to remind my dear opposition, cannot be achieved in isolation. It's through the love and affirmation from others that we learn to value ourselves. I believe that the opposition was too busy celebrating their hypothetical win to even consider what the proposition was talking about, because for them they have completely confused the entire difference between self-love and self-obsession. I, for one, wholeheartedly agree with our Deputy Prime Minister when she highlighted the dangers of excessive self love. I would like to remind the opposition that the line between self love and narcissism is very fine. I ask them, where is the limit of self love? How do we define it? The reality is, there is no clear boundary. Excessive self love becomes narcissism, which, for one, we can already see in the opposition, considering they have already won the debate in their thoughts. Now, leaving individuals disconnected and alienated from those around them, the only way to temper this excessive self love is through genuine relationships. When people receive external self love and validation, they don't feel the need to inflate their self worth artificially, like the opposition suggests them to. They learn humility, empathy, and the true value of love through their interactions with others. Now, I would like to take the opposition back to first grade to remind them that just because the name includes the word sun does not mean the flower produces its own sunlight. Similarly, we cannot develop self love in a vacuum. We need warmth and light of others' love and support to truly blossom. The opposition stance promotes loneliness and isolation by emphasizing self love as a prerequisite for relationships and friendships, implying self acceptance is necessary and at the level of perfection for meaningful engagement. This unrealistic and detrimental, as humans are social beings who thrive on connections and mutual support. And I would like to quote my deputy PM by saying that we are humans and we need self-love. I would like to remind this opposition that we are not machines like they are thinking of us to be. Now, the narrative suggests that we are solely responsible for our emotional well-being, ignoring the significant impact of community and relationships on mental health. Isolated individuals forever struggle with self worth, and it is through caring individuals that we can see our true value. In conclusion, opposition's argument is flawed, dangerous, and incompetent. It advocates for a lonely and isolated journey toward an undefined goal. We, on the other hand, recognize the importance of self-love from love from others in cultivating self-love. We understand that meaningful relationships are the cornerstone of a healthy self-image. So let's reject this misguided narrative and embrace a more realistic, compassionate approach. Love from others is not just beneficial, it's essential. And together we can build a society where support and connection leads to true self acceptance and love. Thank you.
Cool, cool. So with that, we are at the end of the Open Grand Finals and the entire tournament as well. I hope you guys had a wonderful experience. So we will ask, like just like the previous rounds, this is a silent round as well. So we won't be giving aways. We'll like deliberate among ourselves and we'll release speaker scores and like maybe in I think the time was like 7:30. So in another hour, you should like join the main auditorium for the like big reveal of who's the winner. So yeah, join us in the auditorium for that. And apart from that, yeah, best of luck. If you after the results are out, if any of you want any sort of feedback or guidance, or in general any sort of advice on how to like improve or what the next step at debating is, or anything in general, feel free to reach out to anyone in the panel. Yeah, but apart from that, I think we are close for today. Happy debating.